Xinguang Sect, the morning bell tolled continuously, awakening all the disciples, who then began their cultivation with vigor, inhaling and exhaling spiritual energy. On a small street, vendors shouted and buyers haggled, lively chatter filling the air, making the atmosphere bustling and full of life. Suddenly, everyone turned in surprise to look at a young man walking down the street. He wore a purple Taoist robe, holding a thin cord in his hand, and at the other end dangled his spiritual pet, a kitchen knife. Everyone on the street looked at him with bewildered expressions. A nearby student couldn't help but exclaim, "Holy crap, I've only ever seen people walk their spirit pets. This is the first time I've seen someone walk a kitchen knife." Another student quickly raised a finger to his lips to hush him. "That's Yuan, the senior disciple from Seven-Colored Peak." Little Knife below seemed to understand and, in fury, began slashing at the ground with loud thuds. As the man in the purple robe walked away, the surrounding students gathered together whispering among themselves. I heard he even threatened other disciples, saying his cultivation methods were poisonous, his intentions are malicious. Watch your words, that man is crazy, don't provoke him. He holds the position of senior disciple, yet he can't even reach the foundation establishment realm. That man is despicable. His name is Yuan, a cultivator of the Xinguang sect, and also a transmigrator. Hearing their gossip, Yuan only smirked faintly, thinking to himself, malicious? Despicable? Crazy? That's because you are completely ignorant of the dangers of this world. After transmigrating, I can not only see the label of every person in the sect, but also the annotations for objects. This has also caused me a lot of trouble. Thinking this, Yuan turned slightly to glance behind him, and a series of information panels instantly appeared over those people. A newbie cultivator who has just started, a senior errand boy on Divine Medicine Peak, a mere low-level disciple who just barely gathered enough resources to build his foundation after a desperate struggle. He suffered deviation during cultivation and doesn't have much time left. Cultivating this set of foundation establishment techniques will attract the attention of an unspeakable existence. Yuan continued walking forward, glancing at the roadside stalls as he passed, sighing softly in his heart. Ah, this world is full of problems everywhere. Once a foundation is established, you become a resource for certain beings. It's impossible to cultivate here. He suddenly froze, shouting aloud in alarm, startling Little Knife as well. Crap, I almost forgot. I have to go select disciples today. Then Yuan hurriedly accelerated, dashing through the streets as Little Knife leaped up and clung to his waist. In front of the main hall of Xinguang Sect, at this moment, the candidates and disciples had already gathered. A white-haired man spoke with visible irritation. Has Yuan of the Seven-Colored Peak not arrived yet? A green-haired man behind him quickly spoke up in Yuan's defense. Senior Brother Kong, you know his personality. He is a cultivator of the obsessive lineage, an eccentric. It's quite normal for him to be occasionally late. To elaborate briefly on the obsessive lineage are cultivators who fixate upon one single obsession, which could be a sword, a flower, or even a person. Extreme obsession often comes hand in hand with some mental instability. They are known as the madmen of the cultivation world, and generally, no one wants to provoke them. Returning to the scene, the white-haired man frowned, his face darkening as he inwardly grumbled. The new disciples haven't even entered the sect yet, and they already see the senior disciple being late. What sort of impression is that? Just then, Yuan descended gracefully from the sky. The green-haired man brightened and called out, "Here you are, Yuan is here." The other man's face, however, was still grim as he barked, "Now that everyone is present, let the selection of disciples begin." Once everyone had assembled, the white-haired man proclaimed loudly, "Today is the day the 5 peaks select their disciples. The Xinguang sect's fame is widespread, and huge numbers of people have come seeking to study. However, only the most exceptional disciples can be chosen by the 5 peaks as true disciples, and the students before us are the genius disciples who achieve the A grade in the assessment, making them worthy of becoming true disciples. Allow me to introduce the top disciples of the various peaks to everyone. This is the top disciple of the Battle Peak, Quangren. This is the top disciple of the 7 Colors Peak, Yuan. This is the top disciple of the 10,000 Laws Peak, Sui. This is the top disciple of the Divine Medicine Peak, Shuga Miao. His voice then took on a more grandiose tone. And I am Kong Fuluin, the final disciple of the 5 Lights Peak Masters, the son-in-law of the Sect Master of the Xinguang Sect, the great master of the 5 Glories Sacred Techniques, the founder of the Minor Sun Technique, and the chief senior disciple of the 5 Glories Peaks. Yet, the information panel in Qi Yuan's eyes read, Kong Fuluin, known as the biggest show-off on 5 Glories Peaks, whose hobby is to be ostentatious and arrogant. As Kong Fuluin finished speaking, the students below all clasped their hands respectfully and shouted in unison, Greetings to all my senior brothers. Kong Fuluin's face lit up with satisfaction, while the others. At that moment, Kong Fuluin stared fixedly at one male student below, a sly smile spreading across his face as he schemed inwardly. This person possesses a light spiritual root, which is the most suitable for cultivating my 5 light peaks cultivation method. I must secure him first. Then he turned back with his usual fake smile and addressed the 4 others. Fellow junior brothers, how should we choose among these 7 people? Coincidentally, all 4 of them had the exact same thought. If you want to choose first, just say so. Sensing the tense air, Chuga Miao cleared his throat and said, Ahem, before I came, Master instructed that the 7-color peak will choose first this time. Then, leaning close to Kong Fuluin, he whispered, The 7 colors peak hasn't chosen a disciple in a long time. There are rumors outside that the other 4 peaks are bullying the 7 colors peak. Hearing that, Kong Fuluin's face darkened, annoyance flashing through his eyes as he thought, You sure are talkative. I'll choose one first, and it won't interfere with Qi Yuan's selection. However, Qi Yuan doesn't know the full background of these disciples. Even if we let him choose, he might not pick the one with the light spiritual root. The one with the highest natural talent still belongs to my 5 light peak. After that thought, he turned to Qi Yuan with his signature fake smile and said, Junior brother Qi Yuan, please select your disciple. Qi Yuan replied in a cold tone, Yes, senior brother. The students below grew excited, countless thoughts running through their minds. The other peaks have many disciples competing, but the 7-colored peak only has one. Therefore, the 7-colored peak must have the most abundant resources. Choose me, choose me. Qi Yuan rubbed his chin, recalling his master's words. Since Master asked me to choose disciples to increase the popularity of the 7-colored peak, I should definitely choose someone suitable. When Qi Yuan approached the student Kong Fuluin had his eyes on, Kang's heart skipped a beat, sweat trickling down his back as a thought flashed through his mind. Crap, he wouldn't choose him, would he? The information panel appeared. This is an ordinary young man. However, it seems he joined the Xinguang sect with some ulterior motive. Ulterior motive? No way. Next one. Seeing Qi Yuan move on to the next person, Kong Fuluin let out a sigh of relief, a smug grin spreading across his face. I was really overthinking it. How could Qi Yuan's eyesight compare to that of me, Kong Fuluin of the 5 light peak? At this moment, before Qi Yuan stood a charming young woman, her posture shy and demure, draped in a flowing yellow Taoist robe. The system's evaluation appeared. This is an ordinary young girl, however. Her special constitution has caught the eye of the black chicken old demon, who views her as a cauldron, which might bring trouble to the Xinguang sect. Qi Yuan's face darkened, his brows furrowed as he thought to himself, Her constitution is indeed special. Too dangerous. Next one. The next candidate was a young man with delicate features and sharp eyes that gleamed like stars. The system's evaluation appeared again. This is an ordinary young man. He has 2.5 years of cultivation experience, but now has no cultivation left. Deep in his consciousness, a residual soul is sleeping. Before coming to the Xinguang sect, his fiancée broke off their engagement. Seeing that, Qi Yuan was startled. Holy crap, is that a main character template? I'd probably lose my life being his follower. Next one. A man's body with a woman's heart. That's a pervert. A man with 3 legs. That's even more of a pervert. He was speechless. After going through all the candidates, Qi Yuan found no one suitable. He held his head in frustration, sighing inwardly. Sigh, seriously, this Xinguang sect really has problems everywhere. 3 months ago, Qi Yuan exposed that the Xinguang sect's leader was a spy for the demonic Desire Gate, but was instead detained for several days. Since then, he vowed to no longer involve himself in exposing any issues. Qi Yuan comforted himself, but hey, If there are problems everywhere, then it's as good as no problems. Zhuge Miao thought helplessly, that guy Qi Yuan, he's not going to reject everyone again, is he? Just as Qi Yuan was about to leave, he glanced at the last student in the group. The evaluation panel appeared. This is an ordinary young woman. She's a bit mysterious, and seems to have some designs on the Peak Lord of Seven Color Peak. Designs on the Peak Lord? She's my competitor. I have to eliminate her. Thinking that, he immediately spoke up. No. Before he could reject her, the girl suddenly knelt down, shocking Qi Yuan, and respectfully clasped her hands. I am Jiang Lingsu, and I have long admired this senior disciple of the Seven-Colored Peak. I hope senior disciple can accept me and give me a chance to enter the Seven-Colored Peak. Zhuge Miao's jaw dropped. So Qi Yuan actually has fans. Kong Fuluan frowned in irritation. Is that for real? Is Qi Yuan's reputation that good? Seeing the girl act so proactively, Qi Yuan's heart was filled with suspicion. So eager? Could she be hiding some ulterior motive? The girl looked at Qi Yuan with eyes full of anticipation, silently thinking, my name is Jiang Lingsu, a direct descendant of the Jiang clan. With my background and family status, I would have never paid attention to a sect like the Xinguang sect of the Great Shang dynasty before, but today, I must join. A month ago, my bloodline awakened, and I gained one chance to wield the supreme treasure, the Heaven and Earth Mirror. In the Heaven and Earth Mirror, I saw my father fall in battle and my mother bleed in the palace, the continent shattered, and the seas overturned. Only the small Xinguang sect, seemingly due to a powerful expert, was spared. The Mirror of Heaven and Earth is my clan's most precious treasure. What I saw was a future vision, a warning from the heavens. However, this vision must not be leaked, or I will even forget it myself. That's why I must join the Xinguang sect, and preferably the Seven-Color Peak, because its Peak Lord has a mysterious background and great power. He is very likely that powerful expert. Moreover, Seven-Color Peak only has one disciple. Joining this peak would mean less work and it'll be easy to gather information. I've heard that people who are obsessed with cultivation have a lot of personality problems, often ignoring everything and lacking people to take care of them or do things for them. I, Jiang Lingsu, can use this to my advantage, for the sake of the world's people, for the sake of my loved ones. What does a little sacrifice matter to me, Jiang Lingsu? Thinking this, her heart fluttered slightly, her face flushed, and she gently bit her lower lip. Then, mustering all her courage, with a pleading tone, she stammered, I, Jiang Lingsu, am willing to be a servant, a maid, to work like an ox or a horse to help senior brother with his troubles. Zhuge Miao and Kong Fuluan couldn't help but exclaim, wow, oh! Qi Yuan turned back in surprise to check the evaluation panel. The last remaining candidate disciple for Seven Colors Peak. If Seven Colors Peak doesn't take on any more disciples, it will probably be forcibly assigned disciples by the other four peaks. Qi Yuan fell silent, thinking, that'll be troublesome. What if they force a few problematic disciples onto us? Never mind, I'll choose her. She's just a woman anyway, so she can't compete with me for being the master. After making up his mind, Qi Yuan said coldly, granted. Jiang Lingsu was overjoyed and bowed repeatedly. Thank you, senior disciple Qi Yuan. Seeing the scene before them, Qi Yuan's senior brothers and sisters all had the same thought. Oh, so that's the type you like, Qi Yuan. A girl who's moved by his efforts, when in fact, Qi Yuan just didn't have a choice. At that moment, Qi Yuan clasped his hands and said to the others, everyone, the selections are done, I'll take my leave now. Zhuge Miao suddenly spoke up, Junior brother Qi Yuan, wait a moment. I have some questions regarding the soul essence cultivation pill formula. I wonder if Junior brother has time to enlighten you, Epsilon? If Junior brother can clear up my confusion, I am willing to offer a foundation establishment spiritual item. Hearing that, Kong Fuluan was utterly shocked, thinking, a foundation establishment spiritual item? That's quite expensive. Quang Ren also frowned suspiciously. Is that for real? The senior disciple of Divine Medicine Peak is asking Qi Yuan for advice on alchemy? Qi Yuan replied, I'll be walking my pet down the mountain in the evening. I can help you check on things then. Zhuge Miao smiled, that's great then. After that, Qi Yuan turned and left but didn't forget to call his junior sister. Junior sister, let's go. She was startled and quickly responded, oh, okay. Jiang Lingsu hurriedly followed behind her senior brother. At that moment, Kong Fuluan angrily grabbed Zhuge Miao by the shoulders and shook him. Junior brother Zhuge, are you sure you want to ask Qi Yuan for advice on the pill formula? Zhuge Miao calmly replied, Senior brother Qi Yuan's talent is astonishing, and he always has shockingly original ideas. When it comes to the path of alchemy, he might have a unique perspective. Half a month ago, I happened to run into Qi Yuan walking his pet, and the discussion we had about elixir formulas was incredibly enlightening. Kong Fuluan was dumbfounded. What are you talking about? Are you saying a lunatic has a broad perspective? Quan Ren, standing behind, looked doubtful and asked, Humph, if he were as amazing as you say, why would he be unable to gather a single set of foundation establishment spiritual items? Junior brother Zhuge, you're going to lose your foundation establishment spiritual item. Zhuge Miao just laughed heartily. It's just one step from being a prodigy or a lunatic. Qi Yuan may very well have a unique perspective. Suddenly, Kong Fuluan clapped his hands to draw attention, grinning slyly as he changed the subject. All right, we still have serious business to attend to. If you all have no objections, I'll start picking disciples now. The students below shivered upon seeing his expression. The scene shifted to Seven-Colored Peak. Jiang Lingsu followed behind Qi Yuan, admiring the scenery around them. She saw the mountain peak in the distance emitting a radiant seven-colored light and thought, is this the Seven-Colored Peak? Suddenly, she asked, Senior brother, is Master over there? What kind of person is Master? Upon hearing the word Master, Qi Yuan's cold demeanor instantly vanished, his face blushing slightly, eyes sparkling with admiration as he gazed toward the mountaintop and replied, Master is extremely pretty. Seeing this strange expression, Lingsu was dumbfounded, suspicion flickering in her heart. Wait, is that a word used to describe a master? She continued asking, Then besides being pretty? Qi Yuan replied, Master also has a great figure. Lingsu thought to herself, so this is what cultivators of the obsessive lineage are like? How terrifying. Her expression turned serious as she respectfully clasped her hands again. Senior brother, as a new disciple, may I go and pay my respects to the master? Qi Yuan sighed softly and replied, You can't, there's a barrier on the mountain peak. Master once said that anyone who hasn't reached the core formation realm is forbidden from going up the mountain to see her. Lingsu couldn't help but shout, What? She was completely devastated, her whole body slumped as if all strength had drained from her, thinking to herself, The path of cultivation has 7 realms, Qi refining, foundation establishment, core formation, golden core, nascent soul, yin spirit, and yang spirit. Foundation establishment already qualifies one as a core disciple, and core formation allows one to become a high-level figure in the sect. With my natural talent, even with the full support of my family, I would still need over a decade to become a core formation realm cultivator. Thinking of that, Jiang Lingsu weakly asked, Why did Master leave such a harsh requirement? Qi Yuan brushed back his hair and replied confidently, Master is probably afraid of seeing me. Lingsu was speechless, standing frozen in place, her heart filled with doubt. How could Master possibly be afraid to see you? However, there are rumors that after Qi Yuan met Master never appeared in the sect again. So just what kind of taboo did he violate? After that, Qi Yuan led Lingsu inside, speaking as he walked. Oh right, junior sister, my 7 Colors Peak wasn't planning on taking on any new disciples, so we didn't prepare a place for you to live. Qi Yuan pointed toward a pile of dry grass behind him and continued, There's some thatch and wood in the courtyard. You'll have to move it yourself, build a thatched hut, and just make do for now. After saying that, he turned around and left, leaving Lingsu standing there, dumbfounded in the middle of the courtyard beside a pile of hay. Jiang Lingsu was stunned, her face blank, utterly shocked. I, a dignified member of the Jiang clan, actually has to build my own house, and a thatched hut at that? She tried to calm herself. Remain calm. Although senior brother Qi is a bit outrageous, I can't forget the purpose of me coming here. I must find that master who can withstand the heavenly disaster. A while later, Lingsu smiled with satisfaction as she looked at the small house she had built with her own hands, forcibly fixed with spiritual power. Then she walked toward Qi Yuan's quarters, thinking to herself along the way, Next, I need to go build a relationship with senior brother Qi. When she reached the door, she called out, "Senior brother." Qi Yuan's voice came from inside, "Come in." When she pushed the door open and entered, Lingsu saw Qi Yuan holding a jade slip in his hand and curiously asked, "Senior brother, are you playing a game?" He replied coolly, The current cultivation world is no longer the dull and stagnant one of the past. The entertainment industry is extremely rich. There's pill gambling, listening to operas and brothels, sword dances, and even games. The jade slip in Qi Yuan's hand seems to be a gaming jade slip. This kind of slip stores all sorts of games, such as fighting, exploring caves, farming, and even certain special genres. Everything is available. Lingsu stared intently at the jade slip, thoughts swirling in her mind. But Senior Brother Qi's jade slip seems a little unusual. Has Senior Brother been playing games all afternoon? Darn it, I've been working the whole afternoon. He's clearly also at the Qi refining realm, so why isn't he putting in any effort? Thinking that far, Jiang Lingsu couldn't hold it in anymore, forcing a strained smile as she asked, "Senior Brother, aren't you going to cultivate?" If I'm not mistaken, Senior Brother should already be at the peak of the Qi refining realm, just one step away from forming his foundation. She also at the peak of the Qi refining realm. Qi Yuan still held the jade slip, eyes closed, answering indifferently, "You don't understand, I am cultivating." Hearing that, Lingsu was utterly confused. Cultivators of the obsessive lineage need to find the object of their obsession to cultivate. Could it be that Senior Brother's object of obsession is gaming? But being addicted to games is just being addicted to games. It's still impossible for an obsessive lineage cultivator to cultivate by playing games. At that thought, Lingsu hesitated, wanting to say something but keeping quiet. Noticing her hesitation, Qi Yuan put down the jade slip and spoke. "Speak, what do you need me for?" Lingsu smiled and asked, "Senior Brother, I've already finished building the thatched hut. Can you teach me the cultivation techniques of the 7-colored peak now?" Qi Yuan replied, "The 7-colored peak's cultivation techniques can't be cultivated." Lingsu was startled. "Huh?" she asked curiously. "Why not?" Suppressing the excitement in her heart, thinking to herself, is there a secret about the cultivation techniques? Is it related to that master? Did I just find a clue? Qi Yuan answered calmly, "Because the cultivation techniques are poisonous." Lingsu seemed unwilling to believe his words, thinking, how could a sect's cultivation techniques be poisonous? Then she raised her hand and said, "It's fine, Senior Brother, I don't mind." Seeing that, Qi Yuan reached into his robe to search for something. A moment later, he took out a jade slip and handed it to Lingsu. The inscription on it read 7-colored peak, cultivation technique, Qi Yuan's deep cultivation. She stared blankly at the jade slip, a storm of question marks flashing in her mind. What the heck? Looking at the jade slip in her hand, Lingsu forced a smile and asked, Senior Brother is so amazing, he can even modify cultivation techniques." Qi Yuan replied, "I modified it, but unfortunately it's not completely finished yet. I'll give you the complete version later." Hearing that, Lingsu grew even more doubtful. How can cultivation techniques be so easily modified? At the very least, you need to be a core formation realm cultivator to even be qualified, right? And you're still only in the Qi refining realm. After that thought, she smiled faintly and gently reminded him, "Thank you, Senior Brother, but Senior Brother, cultivation techniques are extremely important. You must not modify them recklessly, otherwise, you could easily suffer from cultivation deviation." He sighed softly and asked coldly, "Do you think that not modifying the cultivation technique will solve all your problems?" She looked at him blankly, as if at an idiot, thinking to herself, "It's because you messed around with cultivation techniques that you have problems. Senior Brother's head really has a problem, and a huge one at that, as expected of a cultivator from the obsessive lineage." Lingsu quietly sat in the room, holding the jade slip in her hands, lost in thought. After pondering for a while, she decided, let's first see what the quality of this 7-colored peaks cultivation technique is. I just wonder if I'll still be able to discern anything after Senior Brother modified it. 7-colored flame refining art? It's a very ordinary jade-level cultivation technique. I've seen it in my family's library. Is this part modified by Senior Brother? It actually looks quite decent. After going through the jade slip, Lingsu frowned and muttered, "I can't blindly cultivate this technique from Senior Brother. I have to take this cultivation technique and send it to Sister Yaya for her review. At the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, a massive serpent let out a thunderous roar. The next instant, it was struck fiercely by an attack, crying out in despair. After slicing the enormous serpent into pieces, the figure gently landed on the ground. That person was Yuan, who smirked proudly and said, "A mere level 50 grunt dares to show off in front of me. The game Yuan is playing is a monster-slaying game. This place is called the Full Moon Continent, and the area where Yuan is located is called the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, one of the 4 Forbidden Zones. When Yuan first entered here, he was only level 1. And after a desperate life-or-death grinding session, he fought his way out of the monster piles to reach level 80. Back in the game, Yuan charged wildly into a horde of monsters, shouting, 'Die!' He smiled confidently, thinking to himself, 'I'm very strong now. If I went to the real world, killing the sect master of the Xinguang sect with one slash would be no problem.' Yuan drew his sword from the serpent's corpse, glanced toward the distant mountain peak, and muttered, 'Now, all that's left is that boss.' The boss he was about to face was Crazy Brush, level 70. He recalled, 'This object is a foxtail brush during the day, and at night, it transforms into a fox demon, launching night attacks on those it has charmed. Its night attacks are brutal and terrifying. Even when I log off and go offline, I have to dig a hole and bury myself in it to be safe.' Then he raised his sword toward Crazy Brush, shouting confidently, 'Today is finally the day I get my revenge. Time to strike hard. Demon, where do you think you're going?' He roared and charged toward the boss. Suddenly, Crazy Brush began to shine. Yuan froze, the light from Crazy Brush growing brighter and blinding. It vanished on the spot. After that, it emerged from the ground right behind Yuan. A bad premonition gripped him, sweat dripping down his face, as Crazy Brush gathered all its power and lunged straight at Yuan's rear. But just as it touched him, a metallic clang echoed. Crazy Brush was stunned and dropped to Yuan's feet. Yuan's triumphant laughter rang out. "Hee hee, fooled you, didn't I? I already forged equipment specifically to deal with you." Then he slowly raised his sword and unleashed a technique, Sword Draw. Immediately, the ground before him collapsed, and Crazy Brush vanished with it. Yuan turned away, muttering as he left, "Too weak." A system notification appeared before him. "Congratulations to the player for completing the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. You have received the following rewards. Reward 1, Heaven's Dao Fragment 10. Reward 2, Divine Brush." Yuan stared at the 2 items in his hand, thinking in astonishment. So this is the reward for clearing the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone? He was utterly shocked as the 2 items suddenly vanished, transforming into streams of light that merged into his body. Yuan pondered deeply. After getting the Heavenly Dao Fragment, I seem to have become the master of the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. Game's design is quite unique, but why is it a fragment? Are there other fragments? And what happens if I collect them all? As for the other thing, while he was lost in thought, another object suddenly appeared in his hand, a calligraphy brush with an exquisitely decorated tail. Yuan examined the brush carefully and thought, "The Divine Brush is formed by the power of rules and can be used to write rules for the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. I'll give it a try." After hesitating for a while, not knowing what to write, a mischievous idea popped into his mind. And so, he used the Divine Brush to write a rule based on a famous meme from Earth. "Yuan with the smooth chart, and back ladder have entered." Yuan, with the clipboard, and ladder, has entered, referring to Yuan from Earth, who thought of the meme about being able to enter any park by carrying a ladder. He even thought about adding a condition requiring a maintenance uniform, but decided against it since he'd already finished writing. The scene shifted to nighttime. Our protagonist Yuan was sitting in his room, thinking it was time to go meet Zhuge Miao. Right after, he placed his hand on the jade slip neatly arranged on his bed, clearly treasuring it. After getting ready, Yuan turned around cheerfully, looked at his spirit pet, and said, "Might as well walk you while I'm at it, let's go." Although Yuan is eccentric, he's still a well-known figure in the sect, so quite a few sect cultivators also followed suit and walked their pets. Yuan approached a girl walking a giant turtle, teasing her, "Ha, this little spirit pet of yours is quite decent. I'd estimate it'll develop sentience in another few thousand years." She got angry, thinking to herself, "If you can't say anything nice, don't talk at all. Your pet is the one that'll take a few thousand years. The girl shot back, Senior Brother Yuan, how long until your pet awakens its sentience then? Those nearby whispered, Yuan's pet is a kitchen knife, how could it ever talk? Ignoring the murmurs, Yuan confidently declared with a mysterious tone, at most a year, at least very soon. The girl laughed and said Senior Brother is quite the comedian. Meanwhile, other disciples thought, Senior Brother Chi is acting crazy again. At that moment, Zhuge Miao stood in the distance, watching Yuan. A disciple beside him said, Senior Brother Zhuge, don't be fooled by him. The disciple continued, look at how manic he is, how could he possibly be an alchemist? However, Zhuge Miao spoke up in defense, shouting, Junior Brother Yuan modified the spirit forging technique and personally tested it. Regardless of success, his courage is commendable, yet you all laugh at him. Truly you are just frogs looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. Hearing that, the disciples hurriedly cupped their hands toward Zhuge Miao respectfully. Senior Brother's lesson is appreciated. Then Zhuge Miao, a Foundation Establishment realm expert, turned and called out, Junior Brother Yuan. Zhuge Miao explained, my master was refining medicine today, and I was assisting him, so I arrived late. Please forgive me, Yuan replied, it's nothing. Then Senior Brother Zhuge took out a piece of paper and said, Junior Brother Yuan, this is a nourishing essence pill formula I obtained from a certain immortal's cave. Yuan looked and responded, take a look at this pill formula, what do you think? As soon as he glanced at it, Yuan's system began analyzing. This is a nourishing essence pill formula. If you substitute the vermilion yellow with glossy privet and the ramdrun with small great flower in this recipe, the effect of the resulting pill can be increased by 50%, and the pill's toxicity will also be reduced by 10 to 20%. Without hesitation, Yuan said bluntly, there are quite a few problems with this nourishing essence pill formula. You can substitute the vermilion yellow with glossy privet and the ramdrum with small great flower. Another disciple beside him got angry, thinking, nonsense, you haven't even looked closely at the recipe. Senior Brother Zhuge was stunned, examined the formula closely, and muttered, glossy privet, small great flower. Yuan suddenly asked, where's the Foundation Establishment, spiritual item? After a brief pause, Zhuge Miao exclaimed, I hear it, as if he just found what he was looking for. He took out a glowing purple bamboo tube and introduced, this is the amethyst jade bamboo. It is a grade 8 Foundation Establishment spiritual item. Foundation Establishment spiritual items have grades, the lower 3 grades, middle 3 grades, and upper 3 grades. Legend has it that there are even higher grades above the upper 3. Using a high-grade spiritual item to establish a foundation results in a better effect and greater potential. Zhuge Miao handed the bamboo tube to Yuan and said, the grade of the amethyst jade bamboo is a bit low. If Junior Brother Yuan isn't in a hurry, you could gather a few more spiritual stones and, along with the amethyst jade bamboo, exchange them for a higher-grade Foundation Establishment spiritual item. Yuan refused flatly, no need, thanks. Zhuge Miao suddenly remembered something, sighed softly, and reminded him, Junior Brother Yuan, if you hadn't offended your master, at this point, let alone a mid-grade spiritual item, a top-grade spiritual item probably wouldn't have been a problem, and you would have long since stepped into the Foundation Establishment realm. Zhuge Miao thought to himself, you know, even the sect master of the Divine Light sect has to be courteous to your master. After all, Ruanishi is rumored to be a divine nascent soul realm expert. 7 Colors Peak was established 1,000 years ago, and Ruanishi has been the peak master ever since, with a lifespan exceeding 1,000 years. 1,000 years of life, that's at least a cultivator in the nascent soul realm. For an expert of that level, anything that slips through their fingers is a great treasure. But you, of all people, were brazen enough to anger your master, and got your resources cut off. Thinking this, Zhuge Miao suddenly said, why don't you apologize to your master? Yuan calmly replied, I didn't say anything wrong, why should I apologize? I'm telling you all. Zhuge Miao felt a bad premonition. Wait a moment, he's not going to. Yuan raised his voice and declared, you're all afraid of Ruanishi, but I'm not, because she is my. Before he could finish, Zhuge Miao rushed over in panic, covering Yuan's mouth, shouting, Junior Brother Chi, don't say any more. Zhuge Miao quickly grabbed a nearby disciple and said hurriedly, Junior Brother Qi, I'll go back to research the pill formula now, see you later. Back at Divine Medicine Peak, the disciple from before still looked upset, saying, Senior Brother, Qi Yuan isn't even from our Divine Medicine Peak. What skill does he have to help you look at a pill formula? I'll go get the amethyst jade bamboo back right now. But Zhuge Miao waved it off coldly. I made a deal with Junior Brother Qi Yuan. What right do you have to judge? Yes, Senior Brother. The disciple tried to explain. I'm just worried Senior Brother will get nothing for his efforts, and waste medicinal ingredients as well, Zhuge Miao replied cryptically. You guys, you don't understand anything. Let me refine a few batches and compare them with the pill formula, then we'll discuss the results. The scene shifted back to Qi Yuan's residence at 7 Colors Peak. After a day out, Qi Yuan set his spirit pet aside, happily looking at the jade slip in his hand and thought, after dinner, it's time to play games. The jade slip suddenly lit up, working like a phone. He wondered, is she online? The story flashed back to the past. When Qi Yuan first obtained the game Jade Slip, he only took it as some kind of weird electronic product. What is this thing? It can even chat. At that time, the game map was not unlocked, but there was already one friend in the Jade Slip. What Imperial Guard Prime Minister? Her way of speaking is so strange, and it sounds like she's going to inherit a huge family fortune. She might be a wealthy beauty. Hee hee, let me tease her. Huh, she got angry. A bit cute. Qi Yuan had no friends in the hospital. She, in the Jade Slip, was his only communication partner. Unfortunately, after the game map refreshed, his friends list disappeared and has remained so until now. Back to the present, Qi Yuan looked at the Jade Slip, thinking, I didn't expect to see you again, what should I say? After hesitating for a long time, Qi Yuan finally sent a simple message, Are you there? At the same time, in the distant Nangan Kingdom, a noble-looking woman walked through a vast palace. She coldly ordered the palace maids to leave, wanting some privacy. When the maids were gone, the large hall fell silent. Alone in the vast space, the woman sank into her own thoughts. This was the queen of the Nangan Kingdom, Jean Li. She bitterly thought that even the maids by her side could not be trusted, truly a pitiful queen. 10 years ago, my father passed away. At 7 years old, I seemingly inherited the throne, but in reality, I was completely alone. With the demon tribe invading and hostile nations coveting our land, the southern Qian kingdom has been fraught with crises these past years. Now, the powerful Prime Minister Sima Ting has colluded with the northern Han royal court, and the one I rely on most, Qin, was ambushed and severely injured. My situation is also becoming increasingly difficult. Qin is a king-level expert, and Jean Li's supporter. Jean Li's eyes flashed with hatred. She was certain Qin's injury was caused by Sima Ting. To ease her burden, Jean Li removed her clothes and prepared to soak in the bath. Immersed in the warm water filled with petals, she couldn't help but sigh. I'm so tired. Suddenly, a sound startled her. She was surprised to realize it came from a finely crafted jade slip. The rare treasure exquisite jade slip. Legend has it that this item naturally comes as a pair. The two people who possess this rare treasure can communicate through it, and the royal treasury of the southern Qian kingdom possesses one of them. A year ago, Jean Li entered the royal treasury, discovered the exquisite jade slip, and casually took it out. She felt as though the jade was calling to her, unexpectedly. Within the exquisite jade slip, she met an interesting person. Jean Li smiled faintly to herself. This person is truly amusing. Although this person's way of speaking was strange, they could make the lonely Empress Jean Li happy for a moment, letting her slightly open her heart. She replied to his message. I'm here, she thought to herself. You haven't replied to me for half a year. I thought something had happened to you. Jean Li asked further. You've been gone this whole time. Where did you go? He explained. I originally wanted to call you to go monster hunting Tober, but as soon as I entered the map, I couldn't chat or contact you anymore. Jean Li wondered, monster hunting? It seems to mean killing monsters. He should be a monster hunter. Jean Li worriedly asked, Is it dangerous there? He replied proudly, like a gamer, we players are the fourth calamity. What danger, what monsters? They're just experience packages, nothing more. Do you want to team up with me? A guy and a girl working together makes the job easier. Jean Li blushed slightly, thinking he was inviting her to hunt monsters together. But then she sighed. But the way I am right now, then replied, I have things going on at home right now, so I can't leave. Seeing that, Yuan could only be puzzled, not understanding how she could be so busy she didn't have time to play the game. Where are you now? Yuan replied, I was in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone before, and now I'm preparing to head to the Iguan Forbidden Zone. She suddenly sat upright in the bath, startled. Xianyuan Forbidden Zone? Iguan Forbidden Zone? Aren't those the 4 great forbidden zones? The full moon continent is vast and its breadth is unknown, and the powers of the human and monster races are equally matched. However, above the human and monster races, there is an even more terrifying existence. That is not a single race, but the legendary 4 forbidden zones and 1 absolute doom. Even the emperors of the monster race dare not rashly step into them, or they risk death and destruction. The absolute doom among them is even more terrifying, named the Heavenly Absolute, where emperors who enter have a 10 out of 10 chance of dying. Jin Li recalled, the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone is located within the southern Qian Kingdom, a few hundred miles away from the imperial capital. Legend has it that it was formed from the grave of a peerless supreme expert. Yuan said he's been grinding monsters in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone this whole time? How is that possible? She asked suspiciously. Are you being serious? Or are you joking with me? Yuan replied casually, why would I lie to you? I was waiting to invite you to team up. Going into a dungeon alone is too boring. But now I don't need to. I've already cleared out all the monsters in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. It completely wore me out. Jin Li was completely stunned by his claim. She stammered, cleared it out. Jin Li couldn't believe her ears. She thought to herself, what do you mean? The monsters in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone are not only numerous but also very powerful. Of all the countless prodigies throughout the history of the full moon continent, only a handful have managed to make it out alive. To say someone could fight their way through the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, perhaps even supreme emperors couldn't do it, right? Thinking about such an impossible possibility, Jin Li asked again, what's your cultivation? Could it be an emperor? On the other side, Yuan seemed puzzled by the unfamiliar title. He replied, Emperor? What's that? I'm already level 82. Jin Li was dumbfounded. Level 82. She muttered inwardly, Yuan always speaks strangely. That's probably his own way of measuring power. Maybe I can find something to compare it with. She asked again, in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, is there any monster that left a strong impression on you? Yuan answered, in the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, the strongest one is a mad brush. It's especially sly, always likes to turn into a brush at night and ambush people without honor. Because of that, every time I log off, I have to dig a hole and bury myself. Jin Li was horrified when she heard the name Mad Brush. She recalled, Mad Brush, it has at least the power of a supreme emperor. In my Nangan kingdom, there are only 2 people with emperor-level power. She quickly asked again, what level is it? Yuan calmly replied, that one, barely in the 70s. The answer left Jin Li reeling. It's in the 70s, and you're 82? Seriously? Yuan asked if she planned to visit the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. Jin Li suddenly remembered there was a barrier outside the Forbidden Zone, one that even an emperor couldn't cross. Yuan said again, simple, I'll teach you. It's like going to the movies. Just bring a ladder, and no one will stop you. Plus, the beasts inside won't attack you either. After that, Yuan hurriedly ended the conversation. Alright, that's enough talk. I've arrived at the Iguan Forbidden Zone. Let's chat next time. Jin Li stared blankly at the dim jade slip, pondering Yuan's words. Xianyuan Forbidden Zone to Iguan Forbidden Zone 10,000 miles apart. How did he cross such a distance in so little time? Even a supreme emperor couldn't do that. She leaned back against the edge of the bath, her mind swirling with doubts and questions. Yuan, just who are you? After some time, Jin Li had put her clothes back on and sat down to review the memorials. The southern war grows tense. Even the war elephant tribe has joined the battle. The crown prince of Nafong Kingdom will arrive in the capital in 3 days. The Nangan Kingdom now is like a fat piece of meat coveted by all. Have I become someone's spoils of war too? 10 days from now, the Grand Preceptor of Nafong will duel Aunt Chin. If Aunt Chin loses, I'll have to marry the Crown Prince of Nafong. But now Aunt Chin is gravely injured, she can't possibly face the Grand Preceptor of Nanfeng. What should I do? In her despair, she recalled Qi Yuan's words, which gave her a glimmer of hope. She slammed the table and ordered the servants, "Someone, go to the royal library and find all the records on the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone." The palace maids immediately replied, "Yes. To win, I must heal Aunt Chin, and the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone contains many spirit herbs, if I can find the right one." 9-petal chilo? That's it. It blooms with 9 petals, each releasing a unique fragrance called the Emperor's Herb. If Aunt Chin can obtain it, not only will her injuries vanish, she might even break through to the Emperor level. Carrying a ladder to enter Xianyuan Forbidden Zone and not getting attacked still sounds absurd, but Qi Yuan has no reason to lie to me, and the mad brush is only recorded in Nengen's own archives. After a moment of silence, Jean Li seemed to have made up her mind. With determination in her eyes, she thought to herself, "Forget it, let's leave the palace and head to the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, then send a team to the Iguan Forbidden Zone to investigate. If a true powerhouse is farming beasts there, there'll definitely be signs of activity." Meanwhile, at the Iguan tomb, Qi Yuan had just arrived. Immediately, he was faced with a massive army of headless spirits, ranging from level 50 to 60. He looked down and realized he was completely surrounded by countless enemies. Qi Yuan's confident expression vanished, replaced by alarm. He shouted, "Damn, that many?" Realizing the situation was too dangerous, he decided that running was the best option. Like lightning, he dashed through the swarm of oncoming foes, searching for a way out of the sea of monsters. After narrowly escaping the encirclement, Qi Yuan reached a safe forest nearby and breathed a sigh of relief after the close call. After escaping, Qi Yuan reflected, "I tried a few more times just now. These Iguan spirits aren't like the monsters in the Xianyuan zone. The Iguan spirits have organization and formation, hard to deal with." He decided that was enough for today. It was time to log off. Saying that, he dug a hole and buried himself again. At the same time, in the Chancellor's residence of Nangan Kingdom. This was none other than the Chancellor of Nangan, Sima Ting, the man plotting against the Queen. A subordinate was reporting the Queen's activities for the day. Today Her Majesty met with the Minister of Revenue, reallocated disaster relief silver, and saw Madame Chin. After that she stayed in her study reviewing memorials, no other movements, until nightfall, when she ordered her maid to fetch records on the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone from the Royal Library. Sima Ting sneered and said, "Xianyuan Forbidden Zone? Seems she's pinning her hopes on something as elusive as that. Madame Chin is seriously injured. How could she possibly win the duel 10 days from now?" He continued smugly, "She's already at the end of her rope. From here on, what I need to worry about are our allies in the Northern Khan Court and General Tianqi at the border." Hearing this, the man playing chess with Sima Ting immediately flattered him. "Congratulations, Chancellor. 10 days from now, when Madame Chin is defeated, we'll all rise together, then Nangan will be the Chancellor's domain." Sima Ting closed his eyes, smiling in satisfaction. However, his cautious nature didn't allow him to be careless. Sima Ting ordered his subordinates to still send people to monitor the Queen's faction, since it was always better to be careful. At 7 Color Peak, while everyone else was diligently cultivating, the senior brother of the mountain, Qi Yuan, was walking around yawning, looking incredibly lazy. Catching sight of his junior sister Jiang Lingsu practicing with enthusiasm early in the morning, Qi Yuan called out, "Morning, junior sister." The system panel appeared again. This is an ordinary young girl, who has mastered many Dao techniques and trains diligently. She hopes that one day, she can possess the strength to suppress the world, so that disasters will never happen again. Seeing this information, Qi Yuan couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Not bad, not bad. Junior sister Jian even has the heart to save the world. However, when he saw Lingsu drenched in sweat after her practice, Qi Yuan instinctively took a step back, looking uncomfortable. Seeing that, Lingsu curiously asked, "Senior brother, why do you look so weak? Did you overindulge or something?" The junior sister's question hit Qi Yuan like a thunderbolt, leaving him panicked as he thought, how could that be? Qi Yuan hurriedly explained, "I stayed up late playing games yesterday, used too much mental energy." This explanation only confused Lingsu more. Who loses mental energy from playing games? Cornered, Qi Yuan quickly came up with the perfect excuse. It must be because I haven't reached the foundation establishment stage yet. That's why playing games drains me like this. I really need to reach the foundation establishment stage. To reach the foundation establishment stage, I first need a cultivation method. I've already gone through all the Sect's manuals, but it's still not enough. A thought suddenly flashed in Yuan's mind. He looked at his junior sister with calculating eyes, since she not only came from a noble background but was also well versed in many Taoist arts. Noticing his strange gaze, Lingsu asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong?" Yuan seized the moment, grabbing her hand with a sincere look and said, "Junior sister, you have to save your senior brother. I can tell you come from a good background." He immediately got to the point. "Do you happen to have any extra cultivation methods?" "No matter the grade, just let me take a look." He thought she would refuse, but to his surprise, Lingsu asked how many he wanted. Yuan answered without hesitation, "The more the better, of course. A few hundred, or even 1,000 would be great." Hearing such an outrageous number, Lingsu couldn't help but be shocked and asked, "That many?" "Senior brother, what do you need all those techniques for?" Yuan confidently declared that he needed them to create his own cultivation method, leaving Lingsu speechless behind him. He continued passionately, "Give me some of your techniques. Once I master my path, the entire Shengguangzong, no, the entire Kanglin realm will be under my protection." Hearing such boastful words, Lingsu could only think, "Senior brother is way too confident. I could probably beat him with one hand right now. I don't need his protection at all. But since he said so, I'll still help him. After all, there's only the two of us on this peak. Besides, Master Wanishi has only ever taken him as a disciple all these years, so she must value him highly. I should get along well with Yuan." Thinking that, Lingsu handed Yuan a jade slip and said, "I'll let you borrow the techniques. Senior brother, stop wasting time on games and focus on cultivation. You'll have to protect this little junior sister someday." Moved by his junior sister's innocence, Yuan proudly gave a thumbs up and replied, "Hey, gaming is also a form of cultivation." Holding the jade slip in his hand, Yuan thought to himself, "Whoa, hundreds of techniques. Junior sister doesn't stink anymore, she's fragrant." Having successfully tricked his junior sister, Yuan quickly returned to his room. As soon as he arrived, he activated the jade slip, muttering, "Dish a demon soul art? For advancement technique? 3 essence skill?" Cultivation techniques are divided into initial, intermediate, advanced, jade, mystic, and heavenly grades. The higher the grade, the harder they are to cultivate, but their power and potential are far greater as well. These jade slips contain 627 techniques in total, mostly initial and intermediate ones. Advanced ones are rare, and there are only a few of jade grade, but that's enough for me. The next day, after a night of study, Yuan seemed to have gained some insight, mumbling non-stop, I see. Suddenly, Yuan jumped up excitedly. A brilliant light burst from his palm as he shouted, "I, the Taoist master, have achieved enlightenment. This is a flawed cultivation method. During cultivation, there's a chance of memory confusion, and it can only reach the peak of the qi refining stage. Worth mentioning, cultivating this method won't turn one into anyone's nourishment." Even so, his efforts were finally rewarded. Yuan couldn't help but feel proud of his first creation, deciding to give it a grand name. And the name he chose for it was the Yuan Canon. After staying up all night, Yuan lay exhausted on his bed, muttering to himself, "It's a pity it only goes up to the peak of qi refining. Tomorrow, I'll attend some advanced lectures and try to perfect it for the foundation establishment stage. I'm so tired." Lying there, Yuan suddenly thought of someone, wondering what Jin Li might be doing right now. The scene shifted to the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, where Empress Jin Li and her entourage had already arrived, standing before a mysterious and perilous barrier. Jin Li gazed at the barrier and sighed softly. So this is the legendary Xianyuan Forbidden Zone, where even Supreme Emperors can't enter. A subordinate reported to the Empress, "Your Majesty, we just investigated the nearby area. The locals said the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone hasn't changed at all, and there's been no movement inside." This made Jin Li frown in confusion. Strange, didn't Yuan just clear this place recently? Why is there no activity? Then she turned and responded, To be certain, Jean Li ordered her subordinates to send in a group of men carrying ladders on their backs to enter first. Those were prisoners brought here to test the way. Forced into a death trap, the prisoners screamed in despair. Is this the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone? How can we even get in? Master, this isn't what you said. We're asking for life, not delivering ourselves to death. One of them even fell to his knees, begging the Empress for mercy. However, every move of the Empress and her entourage was being watched from afar by hidden spies. They were agents of the Chancellor, mocking the Empress's actions. What does this Empress mean? She wants to break into the Xenilian Forbidden Zone. Trying to climb the wall with a ladder? That's ridiculous. But the moment the first prisoners touched the barrier, an unexpected scene unfolded that left the two spies stunned. The supposedly impenetrable barrier suddenly opened a passage, enveloping the prisoner. The man carrying the ladder walked straight through the barrier without any resistance, utterly confused as to what was happening. Witnessing the unbelievable scene, one spy exclaimed in disbelief, "What's going on? They got through." Not just one, but all of the prisoners passed safely through the barrier one after another, leaving everyone present in shock. The two spies realized the gravity of the situation. This is the Xenilian Forbidden Zone, a place even the Supreme Emperor can't enter. How are they able to get in? Because of a ladder? This must be reported to the master. But they never got the chance, for just as they were about to leave, a sharp blade suddenly pressed against one spy's throat. In an instant, all of the Chancellor's spies were eliminated, and one of Jean Li's female guards reported, "Your Majesty, the Chancellor's spies have all been eliminated." After dealing with the spies, Jean Li ordered everyone to keep what happened today an absolute secret. The guards all swore they would not reveal a single word. Jean Li then ordered everyone to carry the ladders on their backs and follow her inside, giving a strict warning, "Remember, even if you encounter terrifying beasts, do not leave the ladder behind, understand?" Everyone looked confused but still replied in unison, "As you command." A worried guard tried to dissuade her. "Your Majesty is noble and must not enter dangerous places. We will go in, while you wait here." But Jean Li firmly refused. No. She declared that she would personally go with them, because she completely trusted Yuan. After saying that, Jean Li led the group and together they stepped into the barrier, and once again, a miracle happened. They actually passed through the barrier and safely entered deep inside the Xianyuan Forbidden Zone. Within the Forbidden Land, they even encountered massive and terrifying creatures, yet none of them attacked. Not only were they unharmed, but they also discovered countless rare spiritual herbs such as Sanhua fragrance, Xuanyu grass, and green fruit. Jean Li was secretly astonished. No one has entered here for 10,000 years. Unlike other forbidden zones, the outer spiritual herbs here haven't been picked clean by the strong. Just an hour later, the guards joyfully reported to the Empress, "Your Majesty, we have collected 23 top-grade spiritual herbs." Jean Li looked at the box in astonishment, thinking to herself, "Top-grade spiritual herbs, even I, from childhood till now, have consumed fewer than 10. One of the guards said excitedly, "With so many herbs, we don't know how many powerful cultivators we can create, or how many experts can serve us." But Jean Li knew very well that with only a little over 20 top-grade herbs, it was far from enough to change the tide. So she decided, "We must continue deeper. We need to collect imperial-grade spiritual herbs, especially the 9-petal Chiluo." Her subordinates all responded in unison, "Willing to follow your Majesty." With ladders on their backs, Jean Li and her subordinates ventured deeper into the forest, and as she walked, she thought, "We must get the 9-petal Chiluo, heal Aunt Qin's injuries, and even help her advance further. Perfect chance to see where Yuan has been for the past 6 months." Witnessing the miracle, one of the female guards couldn't help but wonder, "I wonder which extraordinary person taught this method to Her Majesty. That must have been a Supreme Emperor." At the same time, in the main cultivation hall of Shenguang Sect, a lecture was in progress. The appearance of Yuan caused quite a stir. One person spoke up, "Purple robe. True disciple? How did he come to this major class?" But another quickly realized, "This isn't an ordinary purple robe, it's the top disciple of a peak." The first person gasped loudly, "What?" Everyone started whispering among themselves, "Aren't these major classes only for outer disciples and service disciples?" The disciples in the class clearly understood the hierarchy of Shenguang Sect, true, inner, outer, service. Service disciples have the lowest status, cultivating while performing duties. Inner disciples rank slightly higher than outer, usually having a mentor. True disciples are personally taught by an elder, and a peak's top disciple is even more exceptional. The top disciple is the true essence among true disciples. Ordinary elders wouldn't dare offend him. The Sect's answer, Qi Yuan, the pinnacle of disciples, Qi Yuan. Someone immediately recognized him. He is Qi Yuan, the top disciple of the seven-color peak. Instantly, the female disciples in the class were all stirred, surprised that he was so handsome. However, some still wondered, why is he here? A male disciple nearby whispered, I heard he angered the seven-color peak master, who is now sulking in the peak hall. By the way, I only told you this, don't spread it around. Hearing that rumor, the female disciples admired him even more. Wow, angered the peak master? He's really bold. Qi Yuan himself quite enjoyed the attention, thinking to himself, as expected, handsome men are always the center of attention. Just then, the elder in charge of the class entered, and Qi Yuan had already taken his seat. The elder immediately noticed Qi Yuan, and upon seeing the purple robe, he was surprised. Purple robe? True disciple? His shock grew even greater. Not just that, he's the top disciple of Seven-Color Peak. How did he get here? But soon, the elder turned his surprise into motivation, thinking to himself, it must be because my lecture is so good, even a top disciple is drawn to it. This time, I must give 200% in this lecture, make it grand, classy, and absolutely shock this kid. In contrast to the elder's fiery enthusiasm, Qi Yuan just sat there with a blank expression. After regaining his composure, the elder cleared his throat and said, My name is Su Rinshan. Today, this old man will be teaching you all the key points of foundation establishment. Elder Su Rinshan began his lecture. Above Qi refining comes foundation establishment. Once you reach foundation establishment, you may serve as a deacon of our Shenglian Zong and enjoy its offerings. But there are differences in foundation establishment. You all know that foundation establishment spiritual materials vary in quality. The better the material, the better the result. To draw attention, he posed a grand question. But did you know that foundation establishment itself also has grades? Seeing Qi Yuan looking attentive, Elder Su secretly rejoiced. Good, it works, increase the dosage. He explained, foundation establishment is divided into mortal grade, spiritual grade, earth vein grade, and immortal grade. Normally, lower grade foundation establishment materials result in mortal grade foundation establishment. I, myself, achieved the mortal grade foundation establishment. I've wasted my life, with no hope of reaching the golden core. What a pity, what a pity. Mid-grade materials result in spiritual grade foundation establishment, while high-grade materials correspond to earth vein grade foundation establishment. Above high-grade materials, there exist even higher ones capable of achieving immortal grade foundation establishment. Once you achieve immortal grade foundation establishment, you may have the chance to truly become an immortal. The disciples in the class were amazed and whispered excitedly, Whoa, seriously? Becoming an immortal? There's such a thing? Old Su's explanation sounds different from before. However, Qi Yuan wasn't very impressed, thinking, that's it? Chisa Peak's books already mentioned something similar. Suddenly, Qi Yuan raised his hand to ask, Teacher, is immortal grade foundation establishment the best kind? The question made Elder Su pause slightly. Realizing he couldn't shake this special student easily, he cleared his throat and decided to bring out his trump card of knowledge. To assert his wisdom, he confidently declared, Not so, above immortal grade foundation establishment lies the legendary Heavenly Dao foundation establishment. Now that is the strongest of all, just like something straight out of a novel. Hearing that, Qi Yuan became visibly excited and asked, May I ask, teacher, what exactly is the Heavenly Dao foundation establishment? The question left Elder Su speechless. He thought, like hell I'd know what Heavenly Dao foundation establishment is. But to save face, he coughed lightly and said, Ahem, the so-called Heavenly Dao foundation establishment is profound and unfathomable. I can only make a few guesses. Just listen, don't take it too seriously. To appear erudite, he threw the question back to the students. Tell me, what do you think is the most precious foundation establishment material in the world? Is it the tear of the stars? Or the primordial chi of Zliangliang? Or perhaps the supreme bone? Metallic essence? The ancient rankings? Qi Yuan then made a logical deduction. Since it's called Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment, could the material be related to the Heavenly Dao itself? Cornered, Elder Su didn't know what to say and could only stammer. You're right. The material required for Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment should be, while dramatically pointing toward the sky. Seizing the moment, Qi Yuan suddenly shouted as if he had attained enlightenment. I see, I've understood. So that's what Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment is. Qi Yuan's display left the whole class stunned. The elder tried to maintain a calm expression and said, as long as you understand, that's good. While the other disciples silently thought, what's he even saying? Understood what? Qi Yuan, overcome with tears of enlightenment, thought to himself, how come I can't figure it out? The so-called Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment obviously means using the Heavenly Dao itself for foundation establishment. He immediately bowed his head and said, thank you, teacher, I'll take my leave now. His action once again made the female disciples swoon. As expected of the chief disciple, so cool. Elder Su, brimming with pride, believing he had just enlightened a genius, nodded approvingly. Your heart is eager for the Dao, you may leave. Qi Yuan quickly left the classroom amidst the admiration of the disciples, leaving behind the smug old elder, his objective achieved perfectly. After Qi Yuan left, Elder Su added one more crucial detail. Oh right, it said that the material required for Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment is a wisp of azure energy that falls from the Heavenly Dao, called the Qi of Heavenly Veins. That's the very breath of the Heavenly Dao itself, if any of you could obtain even a single wisp. But Qi Yuan was already far away and didn't hear any of it, muttering to himself, use the Heavenly Dao for foundation establishment, use the Heavenly Dao for foundation establishment. Qi Yuan walked along, pondering over what had just happened. Heavenly Dao Foundation Establishment means using the Heavenly Dao as the foundation establishment material. But how am I supposed to refine the Heavenly Dao into my foundation establishment material? Then a thought flashed through his mind. Wait, could the Heaven Dao fragments be used as foundation establishment materials? The game I play isn't ordinary. Every time a character grows stronger in game, I get some feedback in reality. Maybe the Heaven Dao fragments can also be used in reality? Deciding to test his hypothesis, Qi Yuan rushed back to his room, passing by his junior sister Lingsu, who was practicing her sword without even noticing. Seeing her senior brother skip practice again, Lingsu shouted angrily, Senior brother, you're skipping practice again. Qi Yuan scoffed. Practice what? Seriously, can I get stronger faster than by gaming? Thinking so, he immediately activated his unique system. A blue light enveloped him, and the Yuan Forbidden Zone officially opened. The surrounding space shifted, Qi Yuan's eyes turned blue, and he entered the world within his game. In the game, he received a notification that Jean Li had appeared, and he said smugly, Told you I wasn't lying, didn't I? He looked deep into the forest, where countless monsters were gathering, thinking, gotta admit, the monsters in this Yuan Forbidden Zone are endless, and they love to swarm together. I'll have to find some isolated ones to handle. Thinking that, Qi Yuan activated one of his skills, Stealth. In the game, every 30 levels Qi Yuan gains a main skill, and every 10 levels, a minor one. His two main skills right now are Sky-Slaying Sword Draw and Overbearing Power. Stealth is a minor skill that conceals his presence. Qi Yuan suddenly noticed a strange noise nearby. Peering through the nearby grass, he saw countless colorful cloth strips floating around, and upon seeing that scene, Qi Yuan couldn't help but exclaim, Damn, what a lecherous monster.